So for my country, I chose Afghanistan, and Islam is the official state religion there. And I'll just be talking about what differences we can see in different aspects of their life in Afghanistan. So first would be appearance. This is going to be like the first thing that you notice about somebody if you haven't talked to them, especially. So in Islam, they have to dress and behave very modestly, as you can see with the pictures. They cover their head, arms, and legs, typically, at least as long as they're dressed pretty modestly. That's just kind of showing respect, like they don't want to show their body off. Women typically wear hijabs after they go through puberty. You kind of have the choice to whether you want to wear that or not. And it can only be taken off around other women or around very close family. But like even your husband, you can't take it off in front of him until you are married, or like your kids. But like if any man that is not closely related to you sees you take off your hijab, it's not seen as a good thing there. So they typically keep most of their body covered and dress and behave very modestly. So the second is prayer. So prayer really brings them all together as a community. They pray 5 times a day at the mosque, which you can see an example of one of the mosques here. I believe that you don't have to go to the mosque every time, and you can pray within like the comfort of your own home, but you do have to pray the 5 times a day. And there's another picture in here that shows each of the prayers. And before you pray, you have to do ablution, which it kind of shows an example of it here. You have to like wash all of your limbs before you are even able to pray. And when they pray, they face towards Mecca, which is the east. Not super sure why, but I think it's just another way. A lot of this is just ways for them to become closer to their God, Allah. And yeah, they want to be clean before they send out their good thoughts and prayers. So, boundaries. There is some boundaries. So, like I was kind of saying earlier with hijabs, that women and men not communicating, but women and men in Islam is not how we would act here. They are not allowed to shake hands, and they are not allowed to be in a room together. And when I said, unless if it is a very close family member, they say non-maram. So maram means like a male close family member to you. So like that would be okay if they were to shake hands or hug or anything like that. But if it's just a stranger and you are not close to them at all, they just keep their boundaries set straight, and they're not allowed to shake hands. Or even at the hospital where my mom works, a Muslim woman cannot go into a room alone with a man. Otherwise, well, another woman or has to stay in the room with them just so that they're not breaking any of their boundaries that they have set for themselves. If they are in a room alone, it is believed that Satan will come between them. So they don't want to risk it or anything. They have very appropriate boundaries within other reasons. But yeah, it's very frowned upon for men and women to be alone together, unless if you are going to be married. But so the community, so this is the picture I was talking about. It has just the names and kind of the times that you'd see for each of the 5 prayers throughout the day. And then so every single Friday at noon, everybody comes together. So like I was saying, you can pray in the comfort of your own home, but every Friday at noon, everybody joins together as a community and prays to Allah together. And it shows how tight knit they want to be. They want to keep all their relationships close and personal, so they all come together. And you can see this, like they're in the mosque and they're all praying together. So I would assume this would be Friday at noon is when you have to do that. There are other times, obviously, there will be many people together praying, and it doesn't just because it's Friday at noon, but they also have Ramadan, which kind of brings them together as a community. So Ramadan is 1 month out of the year. They everybody fasts from sunrise to sundown, and they fast from, typically it's like food and water, but it can be other things that you just want to separate yourself from. And again, it's just to become closer to Allah, but it makes you closer with everybody around. So if they're eating right now, which means it would be after sundown if it was in the time of Ramadan. There also are exceptions to this. If you are a woman and you're on your period that month, you're menstruating, then you are excused for that week where you're on it, and you're able to eat and drink water and everything. Or there's other reasons, like if you have a medical emergency, like you can eat. But like with the women for that 1 week, they have to make that up at the end of the month. They don't just skip that week and get to eat. They have to make it back up at the end of the month. So continuing on with the foods, they are not allowed to have any type of alcohol, any type of pork, or any type of shellfish. It has something to do with the meat. It has something to do with like how it was killed. If it was not in like an Islamic approved way, then they're not allowed to eat it. So typically, like slaughtering the animals, I believe it is, if the animal like died naturally, then you can eat it. But like with pork, it's not Islamic. And then alcohol, they just aren't allowed to drink that. So then communication, everything throughout the presentation has kind of been about how they communicate and carry themselves and how they work as a community. But it is preached throughout the country and throughout this whole religion that kindness, compassion, respect, and truthfulness are a very big priority when talking with anybody at all. There's also, so personal space isn't really seen as an issue. So like I tried to pick a couple pictures that, I don't know, I feel like in America we don't like being super touchy or people being touchy with us, but if you're within the same gender, that's not seen as an issue. Like touch is very common, and people, it's not respecting somebody else's personal space, because that's just common. So yes, this is my presentation on Afghanistan and Islamic and how they behave differently sometimes and why they do that. And a lot of it in the end is so that they can become closer to Allah.